Folks, we are getting ready to catch hell. Poor white people, Hispanics, Asians, but in particular, not just poor black people, but black people in general. We're all going to catch hell. Now, for all you women that decided that you liked you some Donald Trump, God bless you. For all you Hispanics who also thought you liked some Donald Trump because he possibly was going to give you the gift of whiteness, God bless you as well. For all you gay people who thought that you had arrived and you had the Supreme Court on your side, guess what? You getting ready to take a step back. Now, let me just point out a few things. The obvious first one is Donald Trump is president. And possibly another obvious one is the fact that Steve Bannon of Breitbart fame, a white nationalist, supremacist, racist, along with his buddy Steve Miller, who was the former assistant to Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, both have the ear of Donald Trump. The reason that you know that they are in somewhat control is the events over the past 2 weeks, where that Muslim ban, which wasn't really a Muslim ban, but in all actuality is a Muslim ban, was rolled out. And the head of Homeland Security yesterday fell on his sword. That's Mathis. He fell on his sword and took the blame for the formation of that ban and the rollout of that ban. But it was documented that he didn't even know that the ban was being signed off on, as he was on a plane in transit and had not been even consulted about the quote-unquote finalization of the executive order and the fact that it was being rolled out. So, like a good soldier, he fell on his sword for Donald Trump, because it would not have made sense for him to be in transit when the Muslim ban was going to have to be enforced by Homeland Security. It would have made a lot more sense for him to be standing there next to Mr. Trump when that order was signed off. Okay. Now we come to Mr. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions and my contention that we're going to have issues. Mr. Sessions, without a doubt, does not like black people. Matter of fact, I would say that he pretty much has hated black people for a long time, but like all good politicians, he has been able to hide it in everything other than his actions within the Senate. Other than for reasons of camouflage, Mr. Sessions has voted against every measure that would have done appreciable good for black people. And when he hasn't voted against those measures, talking about the Voting Rights Act and various other pieces of legislation, he has expressed his joy when the Voting Rights Act was struck down, when the laws were put into place in North Carolina as far as voter suppression was concerned. There is a whole host of things that Jeff Sessions has done to show his true colors. So when he ascends to the throne of Attorney General, obviously we, as black people, as minorities, cannot look to the Department of Justice for any help. So that pretty much takes care of the executive branch. As far as the legislative branch, excuse me, with the racist Republicans in power at the present time, you can look forward to legislation that pushes us backwards. You can look for a pullback on anything that Congress can do to give us relief. Because the people that are in control of Congress, both in the House and in the Senate, have no interest in the well-being of black people, although they talk a good game. They're always saying how interested they are in black issues, but when it comes time to put up or shut up on things like the Voting Rights Act and restoration of Section 5, for some reason, they just don't seem to have the energy in order to get anything done. So I'll hang my hat on that inability as judgment for where they are and will be as long as the Republicans are in power. Now, that's not saying that the Democrats are a world better, but in my opinion, the majority of them more than likely are, because the Democratic Party has a much larger tent and minorities are much more active within that party. So now let's get to the third branch of government, the judiciary. Well, right now it's 4-4. And Mr. Trump more than likely is going to get his nominee, Mr. Gorsuch, confirmed for the 9th seat on the Supreme Court. And if you've reviewed his judicial record, you'll see that very rarely has he sided with the common folk. This guy loves to side with the Goliath when it comes to David. And don't get me wrong, we are all basically Davids, except we don't have the slingshots. If you need an example, I'll give you one specifically. Mr. Gorsuch was the one who decided that Hobby Lobby was a person. Now, that's a corporation that basically sells home goods, baskets and picture frames and stuff like that. But it's owned by ultra-conservative religious people. And Mr. Gorsuch found that that inanimate mental construct, which is a corporation, deserved to assert religious rights in not allowing medical insurance coverage for contraception for its female employees. So I fail to understand how Mr. Gorsuch is going to be on the side of us little people now once he becomes the 9th Associate Justice on the Supreme Court. So in looking at all three branches of government, we will obviously not get any relief from our president. We won't get any relief from the executive branch. We won't get any relief from our congressmen, and we won't get any relief from the Supreme Court. So that picture that you see right there with our heads bowed, get used to seeing that picture, because our heads more than likely are going to be bowed for at least the next 2 to 4 years. Now that piece is pretty much simple, and that in itself would be a reflection of the status quo, or a slight decline in the status quo. But here's another little tidbit that you may want to be interested in. The White House is currently getting ready to put together another executive order. But this time, it's going to get serious. Before that executive order, let me rephrase that. An executive designation is a better terminology for what they're getting ready to do. They are getting ready to make a determination that the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. Now, if you didn't know about the Muslim Brotherhood, they are the controlling body in the country of Egypt, and they are perhaps the most influential Islamic group in the Middle East. They have like millions of followers all over the Middle East, and actually all throughout the world. Now, more than 20 years ago, the Muslim Brotherhood was, in all actuality, it was a terrorist organization. I'm not going to even try to blow smoke up your ass and call it sunshine. But approximately 20 years ago, it renounced, let me repeat that, 20 years ago, it renounced all violence. And that's how it was able to win the elections in Egypt after the United States decided to depose President Hosni Mubarak. That was 2011, I believe. Now, let's not get it twisted. There were a bunch of people that were in the Muslim Brotherhood that didn't go along with the renouncing of violence. And they decided to form their own splinter groups. Now, you may know one of the names that one of the splinter groups uses. It's called Hamas. And they still, to this day, want to destroy or wipe Egypt off the face of the earth. And obviously, nobody's going for that. But they are not part of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, if Trump and his boys, and when I say his boys, I mean specifically Steve Bannon, that white supremacist racist that is sitting next to Donald Trump, whispering, talking, and yelling in his ear, and Steve Miller, who was a former aide to Jefferson Beauregard Sessions before he was elevated to Mr. O'Bannon's assistant. These guys are basically calling the shots regarding the attack on Islam. And if you didn't know Mr. Miller, I did a video on him. You can, if you choose to, go in and take a look at it. But that being said, Mr. Bannon and Mr. Miller are pushing hard for this designation because the Muslim Brotherhood is a promoter of Sharia law. Now, it wouldn't be all that crazy if they were completely against Sharia law out front, but they're not. The reason I say that is because Saudi Arabia is a country that is controlled by people who basically use Sharia law. There are other countries as well that promote Sharia law and operate under Sharia law. But they have to start the kind of small, so they're starting with the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, if they are successful in getting this designation, more than likely you're going to see executive orders basically attacking the Muslim Brotherhood and any organizations that are affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood, i.e. any Muslim organization. So what that will lead to is the non-issuance of visas from Egypt and now probably more Muslim countries. That will also lead to financial sanctions, seizure of assets of the Muslim Brotherhood and any affiliates. Well, how far out does that extend? That could very easily extend out to mosques and Muslim charities in this country. Now, how would you as an American feel if your church had its assets seized because you had some type of an affiliation, i.e. a religious affiliation, but not a political affiliation with a foreign organization? You shared the same religion, so you are targeted and covered under a broad brush. Now, excuse me, Mr. Trump has signaled and spoken about his desire to instate or reinstate, in some cases, stop and frisk. Well, if that happens, let me ask you a question. There are a lot of black Muslims in this country, Nation of Islam, etc. And the last time I looked, most of the nation were black people. If you have a designation of the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, and you are able to throw a net around any affiliate, and affiliation, again, I mean religious affiliation, that means that you are now able to go after Muslims, and in particular black Muslims. Well, the last time I looked, I couldn't tell the difference between a black person and a black Muslim. They could be one and the same, they could be different. But with stop and frisk, that the ability to harass black people. So if you think that there's a lot of harassment now, if you think that police are killing black people without any thought or cause about ramifications now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Now, I have a question. And my question is, if the Muslim Brotherhood, which has renounced violence, and that's basically a proven fact. If they're being classified as a terrorist organization, I'm wondering why the Likud party in Israel is not being classified as a terrorist organization. Okay, now I know what you're thinking, man, I'm really clutching at straws, but let me pull something together for you. The Likud party in Israel was basically formed out of another organization. That organization is called, or was called, the Irgun, I-R-G-U-N. You can look it up for yourself. And it basically came into existence back in 1947. Now, that particular organization had a policy that called for the right for Jews to enter Palestine and basically take it by force. Now, I say that because their mandate stated that only active retaliation would deter the Arabs from pushing back against their claims to the land we now know as Israel. They claimed that only Jewish armed force would ensure the Jewish state. Now, that's a heck of a thing to say, but that organization also had a history of terrorism. I point you to the bombing of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem on July 22nd, 1946. That was done by Irgun. I also point you to the Deir Yassin massacre carried out together with another Jewish organization on April 9th, 1948. The Irgun has been viewed as a terrorist organization that has carried out numerous terrorist acts. And you could do your own research, but these people basically were assassinating British, Palestinians occupying the region, and even foreigners that were visiting the region. They were specifically known to be violently anti-Arab. And again, as I stated, you can look them up. But specifically, they were designated as a terrorist organization by the United Nations. And we designated them as a terrorist organization as well. But somehow, when the Likud split off from them, they obtained legitimacy. Unlike the Muslim Brotherhood, who, according to Mr. Bannon and Mr. Miller, and if Mr. Trump signs the order, Mr. Trump, that just because you split off from someone, that doesn't mean a damn thing. So, basically in closing, if The Likud party is not designated as a terrorist organization and caught under the same umbrella as Ergen, then the Muslim Brotherhood, which has denounced violence, shouldn't be brought under the terrorist or designated as a terrorist organization as well. But if it in fact happens, it's going to be not much of a stretch to see how far they push that particular thought pattern for it to include us black people. Just food for thought. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, white people are going to catch hell, poor white people. Hispanics, Asians, everybody is pretty much going to catch hell under Steve Bannon and Steve Miller. The Muslims are going to catch hell. We as black people are going to catch hell. Because Mr. Bannon, though not publicly stated, considers people practicing the religion of Islam to be less than human, and he would prefer to wipe them all off from the face of the earth. Sounds a lot like Hamas to me, but then that's just me.